Austria, a beautiful country with a deep history to it. A nation that through the course of history has seen some of the most battles ever. A nation whose leadership has changed over many times and not always for the better. A nation that has some seriously haunted places. From the most haunted castle in the world to a cemetery of the nameless, number 5 on this list is the Hoher Market. Hoher Market is directly in the center of Vienna in Austria and is quite beautiful today. It has fancy supermarkets, boutique cafes, and high-profile stores for people to window shop and explore. Therefore, it's definitely a solid tourist attraction, but it may not be the best spot to go visit after you hear some of the things that happened here in the past. This market for over 500 years was where the state-sanctioned executions would take place. 500 years of people being killed off has resulted in thousands of deaths piling up over those said years. The manner to how these people were killed has changed and morphed over the years as well too. Most were hangings, but some were quarterings, which is a process where someone gets chopped up into tiny little pieces. Yeah, it's pretty graphic. Because of this, there have been many reports of hauntings in this market. Apparitions of people dressed in clothes dating back to the 14th century have shown themselves to people before. One report has someone detailing an instance that they turned a corner and swore they saw a dead corpse right in front of them. When they returned to the location with another person though, there was no sign of it at all. Other people have sworn that they've seen the ghost of an executioner here before, standing and waiting to hang someone. I honestly think that going to this market would be okay, but if I was to go, then I'd much rather go in the daytime. Probably not the spot you want to be walking around at nighttime with the ghosts of the executed. Number 4 on this list is Seitenstettengasse 6. I hope I pronounced that right, but I kinda highly doubt it. Either way, this is a building in Vienna that you shouldn't want to stay in at all. It all started when a woman tried to murder her husband. Not the best way to start a story, but here we are. The woman who lived in this building tried to poison her husband, but on the same night she meant to do it, actually died herself. Now, her spirit still resides at this place and haunts the people who stay here. Visitors of this building say that they'll see this ghostly apparition sitting in a wooden rocking chair and swaying back and forth, looking as eerie as ever. Apparently, this wooden chair also emits electromagnetic rays. Why it does this or from where this legend came from is currently unknown. This woman also isn't alone in her haunting of this place either. She was said to have a very pretty white cat, and this ghost kitty still sticks by her. The cat wanders the halls and can appear and disappear as it chooses. It's said that if someone looks at it, then mischief will find them and cause them major problems in their life. I should also note that this building isn't even that nice to begin with. Like, at least the market I could get a nice coffee or something, but best case scenario here is that I get bothered with rats, whereas the worst case scenario is I get murdered by some ghost woman. Not the spot that I recommend you stay at if you're heading to Vienna. Number 3 on this list is Malavenspitzbubenhaus. Now that is super hard to say, so for the remainder of this entry, I'm gonna refer to this as the Vienna Prison. This place was put out of commission a long time ago, several hundred years ago in fact. There is a new building there now, but it's still haunted with the same ghosts that riddled this prison several hundred years ago. The prison was known for something truly horrible: torture. Apparently, presumed criminals would be taken into the basement of this prison and brutally tortured in this spot. This torture was so horrible though that those that were kept here would sometimes take their own life prior to this treatment. The souls of those that were tortured and the souls of those that killed themselves are the ones that haunt this place to this day. Blood-curdling screams have been heard throughout this entire building. People have also reported feeling attacked by spirits here, like they're ripping at their own soul and tearing them apart. Just because you destroyed the initial building that caused these atrocities to occur doesn't always mean that the ghosts of those that were hurt will automatically move on. This is exactly what happened here, and it's why you guys should never go.
In at number 2, we have the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club is located on Mount Pellier Hill in Dublin. The building gets its name because it's believed to be one of the first Freemason lodges in Ireland. Around 1725, William Connolly, who was one of the wealthiest men in Ireland at the time, built this building to be a hunting lodge. Years after the build, the roof was blown off during a storm, and locals believed it was the work of an aggressive spirit seeking vengeance on Connolly for building on their land, and that's when the story started swirling. After Connolly family's death, the building was quickly sold and is said to have become a meeting place for the Irish Hellfire Club. The club was founded in 1735 by Richard Parsons, a known dabbler in black magic. The members met at locations across Dublin and were known for their immoral behaviour and debauchery involving alcohol and sex. The secrecy surrounding the club members led to speculation that they were Satanists and devil worshippers. The president of the club was named the King of Hell and dressed like Satan with horns, wings and hooves. The members were said to set a place at each meeting for the devil in the hopes that he would attend. They were also said to hold black masses in the lodge, during which cats and even servants were sacrificed. Some say the building was deliberately set on fire in order to enhance its hellish atmosphere. The best known Hellfire Club story is the one in which the devil himself appears. A stranger joined the members at a game of cards. At some point, one of the card players dropped a card on the floor. As he bent down to retrieve it, he noticed that the stranger had cloven hooves instead of feet. Another tale concerns a young farmer, curious to find out what went on in the meetings. Climbing up Montpellier Hill one night, he was invited by members of the club and allowed to witness the night's activities. He was found the next morning trembling and terrified. Tradition says he spent the rest of his life unable to speak, unable even to remember his name. The Hellfire Club remains burnt out and abandoned on Montpellier Hill looking over Dublin. It is a beautiful sight on a sunny day, but make sure you leave before night. It's a beautiful sight on a sunny day, but make sure you leave before night comes, because you may come into contact with the unusual smells, ghostly apparitions or paranormal sightings. And it's said that satanic rituals are known to be done here. And finally, in at number 1 we have Leap Castle. Of the many haunted places in Ireland, Leap Castle is possibly the most notorious of all, and is one of the most well-known symbols of haunted Ireland. This place is located in Kildare in County Offaly. There are many accounts of when the main tower was constructed, but could go back as far as 1250 CE and was built by the O'Bannon clan. The O'Bannons were the secondary chieftains of the territory and were subject to the ruling O'Carroll's clan. There are many stories of who or what haunts this place. A red lady ghost is reported to walk the halls holding a dagger, and also 2 little girls named Charlotte and Emily are reported to run up and down the spiral staircase in the mansion. A red lady ghost is reported to walk the halls holding a dagger, and also 2 girls named Charlotte and Emily are reported to run up and down the spiral staircase in the mansion. Emily passed away after she fell from the top of the castle's tower, and Charlotte can still be seen running around after her sister and calling her name. The castle was visited by paranormal investigators from shows like Most Haunted and Scariest Places on Earth. These investigators believe the castle is haunted by a sinister elemental spirit. The creature is described as being about the size of a sheep with a human face, black holes for eyes and nose, and giving off the smell of a rotting corpse. During renovation of the castle in the 1900s, workers found an oubliette behind a wall in the chapel. At the bottom of the shaft were many human skeletons on wooden spikes. When cleaned out, it took 3 cartloads to remove the bones. Today, the dungeon is now covered over in order to keep people away from it. It's believed that the O'Carrolls would drop guests through the trapdoor to be impaled on the spikes 8 feet below and could be haunted by the people killed by the O'Carrolls. The castle describes itself as the world's most haunted house, due to the numerous amounts of spirits located here.
Number 5 on this list is the Castle of Good Hope. This castle is located in South Africa and is on a lot of people's worldwide list of the most haunted spots. A main reason for this is simply how many ghosts reside at this place. It's one of the oldest buildings in Cape Town, and it was initially a fort built by the East India Trading Company. Today it houses the ghosts of Lady Anne Bernard, a soldier, and Governor Peter Gisbert van Noort. All of these ghosts have different origin stories and come from different times. Lady Anne Bernard was the first lady of this colony, and she died many years ago under some very mysterious circumstances. Her ghost is said to frequent this spot and will make herself known to visitors. The soldier in question apparently hung himself in the bell tower many years ago as well. This tower has been reported to ring itself with nobody near it at all, and many think that it's the ghost of this soldier that's responsible. And the last is the governor. And this was apparently a very cruel man who would send soldiers to the gallows for his own sick amusement. Apparently one soldier, before being killed, put a curse on him, and after the soldier died, the governor was found dead in his own office of a heart attack. Now his ghost forever wanders the castle in search of rest. Apparently the modern day soldiers that have to patrol this place don't even walk through it at nighttime, but they walk around it for fear of these poltergeists. Not a spot that I'd recommend visiting if you ever find yourself in South Africa. Number 4 on this list is Table Mountain. Table Mountain is located in Cape Town as well, and is a large and intimidating mountain that overlooks the city. Travel Triangle says areas, no matter how brave-hearted you are, you would surely get the scariest of experiences of your life here. It's believed that the governor of Cape Town had an enemy among one of the citizens of this town. In order to take revenge, he gifted the son of the governor a beautiful flute. Unbeknownst of the fact that it was used by a leprosy earlier, the boy enjoyed playing it. After playing it for a few days, he became so ill that he was forced for expulsion at a hut in the Table Mountain. He played his flute there until he died. The local people of the area say that the mournful tunes of flute are still heard in the dark, lonely forest. The story doesn't go on to say what happened to the man who gifted this child with the flute, but one can only assume that the governor had something to say about it. The story itself is really sad though, and watched as an innocent was killed. It makes sense why their ghost would still haunt this mountain today. Also, who knows what happened in those last final days of life in the hut on the mountain. Potentially it was something paranormal which has led to the continued haunting. Number 2 on this list is the Monte Cristo Homestead. Built over 150 years ago, this home has had such a tragic history that many believe it to be Australia's most haunted home, and honestly, after reading about the horrific things that happened here, I totally understand why. Australian Geographic writes, a chain of violent events in the house have triggered other supernatural incidents. A maid once plummeted to her death from the upstairs balcony, and the figure of a woman in period dress has been seen walking along the veranda to the blood-stained steps where she fell. A stable boy who burned to death in his bed at the hands of his master is thought to haunt the coach house, while the ghost of a mentally disabled man named Harold wanders the grounds. Kept chained in the caretaker's cottage for 40 years, Harold was found curled up at the feet of his mother's dead body. He died shortly after being sent to a home for the insane. The sound of clanking chains is said to warn of his approach. All of those things are super scary to begin with, but the most cited ghost at this home isn't even mentioned there. Elizabeth Crawley inherited this house from her husband who passed in 1910, and her ghost has never left. After her husband died, she went into a deep depression and would rarely leave the home. She converted one of the upstairs rooms into a space to perform rituals. It's said that after her husband died, she only left this house twice and eventually died in it by herself. Now you'll know her ghost is present because there'll be a sudden and stark change in temperature whenever she nears. All of this lore has, of course, created a ton of interest around the home, and it's been featured on several Australian ghost television shows through the years. However, you can also stay at this home if you wanted for $200 a night and experience all of this ghostly stuff for yourself. Why you would want to pay $200 of your actual money to get haunted and potentially even cursed is beyond me, but hey, to each their own, I guess. And finally, number 1 on this list is Port Arthur. Port Arthur is located in the Australian state of Tasmania, which is actually an island state 240 kilometers off of the Australian mainland. Port Arthur initially served as a penal site by the British Empire several hundreds of years ago. Towards the end of the 1700s, Britain stopped sending their prisoners to the Americas and instead started shipping them to Australia. What's even better than going to the mainland, though, was this small island state that they also owned in the middle of nowhere. Countless prisoners over the following decades were shipped off to Tasmania, with Port Arthur being one of the biggest final destinations for these criminals. Once they got there, their lives were never the same. Many of these people that were shipped here had committed small crimes out of sheer necessity, stealing some food to survive or something to keep their families warm. The severity of the crime mattered little to the British authorities though, and even if it was something as small and insignificant as this, you could very easily find yourself stuck in this prison for the remainder of your life. The prisoners that got sent here were forced to work tirelessly in the timber, lumbering, and shipbuilding industries. Port Arthur actually boomed for the next 100 years, with more and more convicts being sent here. This was obviously very beneficial for the British government, but not so much so for the people who had to make this place their home. Many of them were mercilessly killed for no good reason. They were often tortured consistently if they weren't working hard enough or had done something that wasn't totally up to the standard. It really was a horrible way of life for those who got sent to Port Arthur. At around the end of the 1800s, Port Arthur started to slow down and eventually stopped altogether. The death of this location didn't end though, because in 1996, Port Arthur saw one of Australia's darkest moments ever. 35 people were gunned down in a mass shooting that took place at Port Arthur. All of this death from various generations has caused Port Arthur to be one of Australia's most haunted spots. In fact, over the years, there have been more than 2,000 incidents of unexplained paranormal activity. Things moving, voices shrieking, change in temperature, you name it, it's taken place at this location before. The asylum at Port Arthur is said to be the most haunted spot here, with reports of people getting scratched and touched by unseen entities. Port Arthur has had a horrible history to it, and it's not a place I'd recommend venturing out to if you do happen to catch yourself in the Australian state of Tasmania.
In at number 5 we have Loftus Hall. This place may be the most haunted house in all of Ireland, and it is said to be haunted by the devil himself. Loftus Hall is a large country house located on the Hook Peninsula in County Wexford. In 1170, Raymond le Gros came to the county and built this massive castle, which was known as the Houseland Castle. The Redmond family replaced the original castle with another in about 1350. This second castle was known as the Hall, or Redmond Hall. Later in 1872, John Henry Wellington Graham Loftus undertook an extensive rebuilding of the entire mansion, adding many of the famous elements like the grand staircase, mosaic tiled floor, elaborate parquet flooring, and technical elements that hadn't been seen in houses in Ireland at the time, such as flushing toilets and blown air heating. Charles Tottenham became the lord of the manor in 1752 by marrying the Honourable Anne Loftus, a daughter of the first Viscount Loftus, and they had 6 children. However, his wife became ill and died while the girls were still young. 2 years later, Tottenham married his cousin Jane Cliff, and they lived together, along with one of Charles's daughters in Loftus Hall. One evening, Charles was resting in his home in 1775 with his second wife and daughter from his first marriage, Anne, while the Loftus family were away on business. During a storm, a ship unexpectedly arrived at the Hook Peninsula, where the mansion was located. A young man was welcomed into the mansion. Anne and the young man became very close. One night, the family and the mysterious man were in the games room playing cards, and it was then when Anne noticed the man having a cloven foot. The man went up through the roof, ultimately leading to his demise and leaving behind a large hole in the ceiling which remains today. Soon Anne became mentally ill. It's believed that the family were ashamed of Anne and locked her away in her favourite room, which was known as the tapestry room. She refused food and drink and sat with her knees under her chin looking out the tapestry room window, waiting for her mysterious stranger to return until she passed away in the tapestry room in 1775. It is said that when she died they could not straighten her body as her muscles had seized, and she was buried in the same sitting position in which she had died. After her death, everyone who had lived there says she still haunts the hall to this day. After being purchased by Aidan Quigley in 2011, this building was marketed as a haunted house that hosted guided tours of the house until 2020 when it was put on the market for sale. In at number 4 we have the Abbey of the Black Hag. The old abbey lies on a small valley about 2 miles east of the village of Shannon-Golden in the townland of the Old Abbey. One of the earliest nunneries in Ireland, it is first mentioned in 1298 and was founded on land donated by John Fitz-Thomas of Canello, who had died in 1261. Remains include the abbey church with 2 small spaces adjacent, and one appears to have been a sacristy and a vaulted building to the west. There are also walls and a gate and traces of an orchard, a fish pond, and a pigeon house. Modifications to the church in the 15th century saw the inclusion of an east window in the church as well as a doorway in the north. Traces of window decoration, columns, and carved tombstones remain. Burials were also located and the church plate was reportedly found in the late 18th century. It is said that the last abbess terrified the local population with her use of the black arts and sexual practices in a room to the south of the church, and is now called the Black Hag Cell. After the closure of the abbey, the hag remained there and continued to perform her unholy acts, and it's believed she lived unusually long, which caused her ancient skin to become darker and darker over time. Another legend is regarding the Earl of Desmond, and that during his escape from one of the many battles between the Geraldines and the Butlers, the Countess was wounded by an arrow. The wound was so serious that the Earl believed the Countess had died and buried her beneath the altar in the main chapel. The Countess awoke to find herself buried alive, and when people would see a ghostly figure they went to her gravesite and they had found her finger bones had been worn out from clawing at the coffin, and it's believed her screams can still be heard to this day. In at number 3 we have Cork District Lunatic Asylum. The Cork District Lunatic Asylum opened in 1789, and by 1845 the Irish Lunatics Asylum Act allowed for appropriating the lunatic asylum in the city of Cork to the purposes of a district lunatic asylum. The legislation provided for 2 new asylums, a criminal one in Dundrum, Dublin, and then a 500-bed asylum in Cork. This building was originally in 3 separate blocks, later to be joined together in the interest of providing more accommodation. To become the longest facade of any building in the country, it opened in 1852. William Saunders Halloran was an Irish psychiatrist who worked at this asylum from the time it opened until his death, and was the author of practical observations on the causes and cure of insanity insanity. This doctor's methods were extreme and torturous. He created something called the Halloran's chair, which rotated hysterical patients up to 100 revolutions per minute. It rarely had the desired effect. Inmates lived out their days in a state of paranoia and despair while admitted at the asylum. The horrors of this place finally ended when the asylum was closed in 1992. It stayed abandoned for many years, and locals and tourists went to visit this scary place. They claim the tortured souls still remain here, and paranormal investigators even visited and claimed to have seen both and heard voices of these tormented souls. Today the building is being converted and renovated into apartments called Atkins Hall.
Number 2 on this list is Friedhof der Namenlosen. This place is a cemetery, and it's been nicknamed the Cemetery of the Nameless. Amy Script details the history of this place beautifully by writing, "Throughout the 1800s, the Danube River, which cuts through Austria, was often littered with bodies. These were usually drowning victims, those who had committed suicide, and often cause of death was unknown. Once the river had claimed these lives, it would carry the lifeless bodies of its victims ashore, hence dumping them in the same area. As even more bodies accumulated, respectful locals sought out solutions to offer them peace. The Cemetery of the Nameless was erected to offer these unidentified nameless people a place to rest, because they could not be interred at any of the Catholic cemeteries in Vienna, probably as many of the victims were of suicide. Bodies were routinely collected and interred at the cemetery, sporting markers listing them as nameless people. Almost 500 people were interred at the original cemetery, which was eventually abandoned. Today, a more modern and smaller segment of the cemetery continues to stand. This burial plot holds the remains of 104 people. Of those buried in the cemetery, 61 remain nameless, whereas others were identified by family or friends. Because of this dark history, this place has been labeled as one of the most haunted cemeteries in the entire world. Disembodied voices coming from these nameless dead can be heard constantly throughout this cemetery. It's believed that the nameless can never truly rest until their identity is revealed. Their souls will never find peace until the world knows who they really were. Apparently, the former caretaker of the cemetery haunts this space as well, and he'll often appear to the visitors. Those that go here have felt like some sort of entity is also pulling at them. Not physically, but as if their souls are being pulled in multiple directions, as if somebody needs your help. This cemetery is definitely on the do not go list if you ever find yourself in Austria. And finally, number 1 on this list is Moosham Castle. Moosham Castle isn't just one of the most haunted spots in Austria or in Europe, it's right up there as being one of the most haunted spots in the world. Ghosts of soldiers, witch trials, werewolves, torturous owners, all of this has happened in the walls of this castle. Starting with the first thing on that list, ghosts of soldiers, there have apparently been over 45 battles that have taken place at this location. It's been said that the ground was soaked with blood during these fights, and they were as gruesome as anything the world had seen to that point. Then, moving on to the witch trials, this place has seen some witches die. In the late 1600s, tons of accused witches were killed here in gruesome ways. Those that weren't murdered had their hands chopped off or were burned with iron, indicating to the world that they were criminals. The rumors of werewolves didn't start until the 1800s, when animals started disappearing from around the area. Then their bodies would start showing up decapitated around the castle, and had the locals living close to the castle believe in a deadly werewolf. Then there were also the rumors that came out about a vicious owner of this castle who would take people inside and torture them before killing them. This was proven when a torture chamber was found in the castle. Obviously, all of this has made the castle one of the most haunted spots in the world. People have said that they get the sensation of hands reaching out and grabbing them from thin air while they're at this castle. Some people have even gone mad after going to this place, saying that it feels like a parasite has entered into their brain. The werewolf has also never been found, and some of the locals believe that it still haunts this place to this day. This castle cannot be visited in any circumstance. It's certainly interesting to research, but visiting it is way too much of a risk. Number 5 on this list is Trival Forest. Located near the Romanian city Pitești, Trival Forest has several ghostly legends surrounding it. Some of them are old and have been rumored for centuries, whereas others have only recently gained the public's attention. Wikipedia writes, "There's a legend about a maiden, daughter of a rich landowner who loved a poor servant of her father. Her father found a rich old man for her to marry, but during the wedding day, she ran with the servant in the forest. Her father found them and killed her lover and then decapitated her. It's generally accepted that the two scary things about the forest are the decapitated ghost of the bride and the people people going into the forest to do satanic rituals. So that's the old legend that circulates around this forest and has been talked about for several hundred years. It's currently unknown what satanic rituals were performed here and in what time, but many assume that this forest has seen its fair share of human sacrifices and that those killed here still restlessly wander the woods to this day. The more recent legend that started some odd 30 years ago was actually from a taxi driver. It's said that a taxi driver drove a woman out to these woods as she requested him to. Then as payment for the trip was given her wedding ring. He was told to wait for her there until she was done with her business, which was in a very creepy abandoned old building right outside of the forest. As he was waiting though, he fell asleep, and when he woke up he was no longer in the same place or in the same time. It was 10 years later that he woke up in a building close to where his car was initially parked. When he went back to his car, he discovered the wedding ring attached to a finger, and heard later that the woman he drove that day killed herself 10 years prior. I can't even imagine how jarring it would be to wake up in a different place 10 years later. Like most mornings I wake up, I'm already disoriented, but that would be another level for sure. Ever since this story came out, taxi drivers around Romania don't ever want to drive here or pick someone up from this forest. A decapitated lover, human sacrifices, and a woman who took her own life and has the ability to bend time. Yeah, this forest definitely makes the list for places to avoid. Number 4 on this list is Bánffy Castle. Bánffy Castle is a very nice castle located in the small village of Bolinda. It's called the Bánffy Castle because the Bánffy family are the ones who own it. Wikipedia writes, dubbed the Versailles of Transylvania, the castle is reportedly haunted by the ghost of a young servant who paid with his life because he revealed that his mistress deceived her husband. Another variant is that the place is haunted by the ghosts of those who died in Bánffy during the Second World War, when the castle was converted by the Germans into a military hospital. Legend says that there were often seen sinister shadows that seemed to be some of the soldiers, while through walls were heard strange noises, groans, sounds of footsteps, or indistinct voices. Some personal reports from those who visited this castle before have talked about the first part of the legend. They've said that they've seen the ghost of a young man in his 20s dressed in rags and looking as if he just got beaten. This must have been the servant who revealed that secret about the mistress so many years prior. The one positive about this place is that, unlike some of the other entries on this list, it isn't life-threatening to go here. That being said, some people have said that after they visited this place, they felt an aura of bad juju surround them for a long time. Like this parasite of bad luck and bad energy that's latched on and won't let go. It's a beautiful castle on the outside, and I'm sure that it would be nice to visit, but probably not worth the risk when we're talking about ghost servants and decade-long bad luck. Number 3 on this list is Radovan Forest. In this particular forest, they had a pretty tragic event that happened back in the 1940s. There are multiple variations of the legend, but it all boils down to a bride who takes her own life. The first variation of the legend says that the bride came here and took her life after her husband was brutally murdered on the night of their wedding. The second one says that she took her own life before her wedding after a local business owner had their way with her without her consent. Regardless of what led to her taking her own life, she did, and it's now thought by the locals that her spirit haunts this forest and is quite dangerous. A road runs on one side of the forest, and people who drive on it are told to hit the gas pedal and get through it as fast as possible. Apparently, this woman will appear on the side of the road and through some means have a car stop. Then she'll convince the driver to come out and follow her into the woods, maybe because she's in danger or because she promised them something once they get in there. Once they've gone deep enough into the forest though, where the road is almost out of view, is when she'll strike. No one who's gotten out of their car to help this woman has ever come back from that forest and is lost to the woods forever. Also, to add some fuel to this legend, there's a lake in the forest that's claimed dozens of lives over the years. Majority of those that have perished here are men as well, which fuels the narrative of how she died. If you happen to be passing by this forest, then do as the locals suggest and gun it down the road. At the end of the day, a speeding ticket is better than a torturous death from a ghost. Number 2 on this list is Waitomo Caves Hotel. Every country's got one. One hotel that has, through its time of being active, seen one too many tragedies to just be a normal hotel. Some hotels have it worse than others though, and this one is definitely top tier when it comes to hauntings. NewsHub says, originally called Waitomo House, the hotel is said to teem with ghostly activity. Bathtubs drip with blood, spirits walk straight through guests, and those brave enough to stay the night could feel something jump on them or pull their bedsheets away. Wallbank told News Hub the stories of the hotels were intense. "We heard stories from the people there, even if management didn't admit it," he said. A staff member said that she went into one of the rooms to clean it, and the bathtub was just filled with what she said looked like blood. She ran out to get another person to look, but when they came back, it was completely clear, he said. People just don't make things like that up. Wallbank and his Haunted Auckland team, accompanied by the Wellington Strange Occurrences Society, were brave enough to stay the night. They say a slew of uncomfortable experiences followed them. Sinking feelings, like when you go over a bump in the road, were felt. A ball of light passed straight through one of the investigators, and multiple people felt as though they were being watched. Unexplained whispers were captured using voice recording technology, and one of the investigators claimed to have seen a dark shadow streak across a hallway. So this is just a big fat no for me, guys. If I'm going to a hotel, then I want to be calm. I want to be relaxed. I want to get to my room and see a nice little chocolate chilling on my pillow with the bed made. I want to order room service and then have one too many mimosas at brunch. What I don't want is to be fearing for my freaking life from some shadow demon. I also like to take the occasional warm bath, and doing so in a pool of blood is not my idea of a relaxing time. I tried to find out why this hotel is this way, like what could have possibly happened to it to cause such a horrible haunting, but there actually wasn't anything. From my research, it doesn't look like anything tragic of major significance occurred here. This place is just generally haunted and just should be avoided at all costs. Number 1 on this list is Camp Adair. Camp Adair was first established in 1913 and has over 100 acres of land attached to it. It's your typical camp environment and provides a bunch of outdoor and environmental activities for those who want to come and be a part of it. It's a popular location for school trips and overnight stays. Sadly, it was during one of these school trips that a horrible tragedy occurred. There was a group of children who stayed at this camp many years ago. While they were there, something came over their teacher. A soft and a very kind man, by all accounts, totally lost his mind. During the night, whilst everyone was asleep, this teacher woke up. Instead of go to the bathroom or get some water like most of us do in the night, he instead decided to kill every single one of the students that were with him, before ultimately taking his own life as well. Nobody knows why he did this, what changed in his demeanor to have him commit such an atrocity, but they do know that his ghost has never left. Still as mad as the last day that he was alive, this ghost wanders the grounds now and is in search of another victim. The one super noticeable feature about him is his bright red beard. Whenever students come to this camp, they are immediately told that if they ever see someone with a red beard, just run in the other direction. Number 5 on this list is the Devil's Pond. The Devil's Pond is a very beautiful and calm looking body of water on the outside, but it's far more dangerous when you step inside. Located in the Queensland Forest, the pond itself almost looks like something straight out of a fairy tale, but there's no happy ending here. 19 people have died in this tiny little pond. That's a staggering amount of people considering how small this one area is. In fact, so many people have had tragic endings here that there's literally a sign that says the creek has claimed many lives. Think about that. It sounds like something straight from a Scooby-Doo story. Beware of this pond or else, but like seriously, beware of the pond. An ancient Aboriginal legend tells us of how a runaway bride fell to her death here as she was escaping her wedding. The bride was named Ulana, and it's believed that she is actually the cause of the many deaths that have happened here. It's said that she lures and tricks people into coming towards her, and then they fall in and suffer the same fate that happened to her so many years ago. I'm not sure if the bride legend is true or not, but even if it isn't, this is clearly an incredibly dangerous spot in its own right. Australia is a big place, so don't feel like this is your only option if you're going for a swim when you're there. Number 4 on this list is the National Film and Sound Archive. Located in Canberra, which I actually just discovered is the capital city of Australia. Always thought it was Sydney, but actually it's Canberra, so that's fun. But anyways, the Film and Sound Archive is a staple of media culture in Australia. It just hasn't always been that way. Crypto-naturalist Tim says the NFSA building is regarded by many ghost hunters or paranormal aficionados as not only one of the most haunted in Canberra, but also one of the most haunted in Australia. It's not because it houses spooky movies though. The ghosts that are reported in the building stem from the period that it was the Institute of Anatomy. That's right guys, this building prior to being what it is now was housing and studying dead bodies for 50 whole years. There were countless scientific experiments that went on here on hundreds to potentially even thousands of corpses. During this time, it was a museum as well and showcased the dead bodies to those who visited here. Because of all this death, the place is pretty popular among the ghosts. Apparently, the dissection rooms are the most popular, with many paranormal sightings here over the years. There's also a little girl who many visitors have seen. She lives in the air vents of the building and pops out through the grates every now and again. Luckily enough, her intentions aren't evil though, and often tries to make people laugh. That being said, I still don't think that going to this place that used to house a bunch of dead bodies is the best idea. We have Netflix for a reason now, guys, so let's use it. Number 3 on this list is the Beechworth Asylum. Ah yes, the classic haunted asylum. It feels like every country has one, but Australia's is particularly bad. The hospital opened in 1867 and was operational until 1995 when it was finally shut down. During that span, when it was functioning, the asylum had over 3,000 patients die in its walls. That is an absurd number of people for a mental hospital. Part of this was because the methods that they used at this place weren't the best. Like most asylums that started in the 1800s, the treatments that they had for people dealing with mental health problems were far from ideal. Shock therapy, shackling patients up, just blatant torture were all things that went down at this asylum. Obviously, this didn't help anyone in dealing with their issues and caused a lot of people to pass away early. Now, these spirits of those who died here haunt the building. Screams can be heard ringing throughout the walls, with people thinking it's the ghosts of those who were being shocked or tortured. Some have reported seeing the ghosts of nurses walking around the building. These aren't your typical kind nurses though. People have said that they look evil and unforgiving. Deep feelings of depression can be felt here, and just a strong feeling of uneasiness. Personally, I see absolutely no reason to visit this horrible place ever, and in all honesty, I'm kind of surprised that the building is still standing. Number 2 on this list is the House of the Devil. This is your classic tale of a worn out and degraded home that's now haunted. Located on General Propagescu Street in Bucharest, this house has one of the strangest looking exteriors I've ever seen. It's almost 100% covered in ivy, with just tiny spots of the actual home being able to be seen. This really gives off a foreboding sensation and fuels the narrative that something sinister is happening inside the home, hidden from the public's view. A user who's nicknamed himself Dracula has written on a site detailing Romania's most haunted spots that during the interwar period, a man killed here 2 women and a 3rd woman took her own life. Also, some say that on nights with a full moon on one side of the house, you can see the number 666, a symbol of the devil, and here would live a demonic entity full of hate and anger that can be felt from afar. The number 666 showing up is why this home has been named the House of the Devil. Potentially, the demon that haunts this home possessed that one man who killed the 2 women and forced him to do it. Or maybe the sadistic actions of this man are what summoned the demon in the first place. Either way, it's abundantly clear by looking at this house from the road that it's not the sort of place you want to mess around with. People have said that they feel scared walking by the home as if somebody's watching them. Just that foreboding feeling of a dark spirit or aura in their vicinity wanting to strike. Avoid this house at all costs if you ever find yourself in Bucharest. Number 1 on this list is Calugareasca Forest. Yep, that's right guys. Another forest has made the list. Something clearly needs to be up with these Romanian trees that just makes people act crazy, because this is actually getting a little bit ridiculous. Honestly, this one sounds like something directly from a movie or a video game too. Apparently the forest in question has a curse that hangs over it. This curse shouldn't be detrimental to you or to me, but those that have been cursed by this place are probably not the type of individuals that you'd want to have a run-in with. Several hundred years ago, a monastery was in this forest and it housed a bunch of monks. These monks minded their own business and didn't cause any problems for anyone, but were still senselessly murdered by an army of Turks that was raiding the area. Right before the last monk died though, he made sure to put a curse on everyone who participated in the spilling of blood of his fallen friends. The curse made it so that after these men had died, the ones who murdered the monks, their spirits came back to the forest and are forever stuck in this purgatory state in the confines of these woods. Similarly to the scene in the 3rd Lord of the Rings where Aragorn visits the ghost army in the mountains, this is kind of the same thing but in a forest instead. There's only one safe spot in this entire forest, and it's by a white cross that has remained from the monastery in the center of the woods. I don't like my chances against an army of the living, but I especially don't like my chances against an army of the dead. Not a forest that I recommend going if you want to make it out with your life.
In at number 5 we have Ghost Castle. In the town of Beočin, Serbia, on the slopes of Fruška Mountains, rests an abandoned building, in ruins and long forgotten. Known originally as the Spitzer Castle, it was once one of the most beautiful sights in all of Serbia, with glass gardens, peacocks and deer, somewhere you would only hear about in a fairy tale. It was built in the late 19th century by Edward Eddie Spitzer, who was the co-owner of the Beočin cement factory. Spitzer hired the famous architect Imre Stindl, best known for his work on the Hungarian Parliament building in Budapest. The architectural styles of Spitzer Castle include elements of Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque and Romanesque art. In 1889 the mansion had been finished and the Spitzer family moved into the castle and lived there until World War II, then leaving in 1941 and moving to Germany. After the war, the ownership of the castle went to the state, and then at various points in time it hosted a school, library, the first Beočin radio station and a restaurant, but as time went on the building was slowly deteriorating. It was also used as a film set for many movies, including the 1970 American war film Kelly's Heroes starring Clint Eastwood. Today the castle is deserted, surrounded by wires, without door or windows and crumbling rooftops. The locals had nicknamed the building as the Ghost House due to many people hearing, seeing and coming into contact with paranormal entities. On more than one account, people hear footsteps and screams coming from one of the bedrooms. This creepy, decaying building is scary enough, but many dark tourism enthusiasts come here to see if they too can come into contact with any ghosts and haunted beings. There is a theory from the locals that a boy was roaming the home with his friends, but had gone off on his own and never returned. The boy's friends said they heard screams, and when they had run over to the area it was coming from nothing. They had searched in and around the building, but the boy was never found, and to this day people still hear his screams. This is one place you should never visit because you may never come back. Coming in at number 4 we have Devil's Town. Devolja Veros, which translates to English as Devil's Town, is a very unusual rock formation said to be created by soul erosion. These peculiar rock towers are located between the Devil's Gully and Hell's Gully near the town of Kuršumlija in southern Serbia. Located on Mount Radan are more than 200 stone formations, 2 to 15 meters high and up to 3 meters wide, with strange stone caps. This particular place is a huge tourist destination, not only because of its beautiful and unique looking rock towers, but also because of the legend surrounding this eerie place. Locals believe that these weird looking rock formations are actually petrified remains of a cursed wedding party. Apparently these poor people drank from a nearby spring, which attracted the devil himself, who tried to cloud their minds and force a brother and sister into marriage. Once the word got to a local fairy, she decided to interfere and turn them all into stone. The locals still insist that the area is haunted by the devil and refuse to spend a night there. If you're brave enough to go to this cursed place, all I have to say is don't overstay your welcome. Devil's Town and their odd looking rock towers continue to be a very rare natural phenomenon, and was actually a nominee in the new 7 Wonders of Nature campaign. Definitely one of the most visited places in Serbia, whether it's because of its beauty or its haunted past. It's unknown its true origins, but it's definitely a very creepy place. If you're still willing to travel and see this place, maybe just leave before the sun sets, just in case. Coming in at number 3 we have the Skull Tower. This stone structure is located in Nis, Serbia, and almost 1,000 human skulls are embedded in the walls. Constructed by the Ottoman Empire in 1809 following the Battle of Zagar during the First Serbian Uprising. During the battle, Serbian rebels under the command of Stephen Sindelik were surrounded by the Ottomans on Siga Hill near Nis. Knowing that he and his fighters would be killed if they were captured, Stephen detonated a powder magazine within the rebel entrenchment, killing not only himself but also his fighters and the Ottoman soldiers. After this massacre, the governor of the Rumelia Eyalet, Hushid Pasha, ordered that a tower be made from the skulls of the fallen. The tower is 15 feet high and consisted of 952 skulls embedded on 4 sides in 14 rows. So many lives were lost at the Skull Tower, and the history and skulls displayed are proof of that, and many believe that these lost souls still roam the area and is considered to be a very haunted attraction in Siberia. In 1861, Mithat Pasha, the last Ottoman governor of Nis, ordered that the Skull Tower be dismantled, but that did not happen. It was eventually restored and the chapel was renovated in 1937. In 1948, Skull Tower and the chapel enclosing it were declared cultural monuments of exceptional importance and came under protection of the Socialist Republic of Serbia, and further renovation of the chapel occurred in 1989. Many Serbians see this display as a symbol of the country's struggle for independence. As of this year, only 58 skulls remain in the tower walls, and Cinderlecht's skull is said to be featured in an enclosed glass container next to the structure. The Skull Tower is a very popular tourist attraction, visited by 30,000 to 50,000 people annually to see this eerie and creepy display.
Number 3 on this list is Baron Empain's Palace. So this palace is located in Egypt and is apparently one of the most haunted. Usually when we think about haunted spots in Egypt, we think about the pyramids, and truthfully they should probably make this list as well. But today I wanted to pivot and shine some light onto this place, which is arguably just as cursed. Travel Triangle once again writes, people nearby and guards around the palace have seen ghosts and have heard weird voices coming out of this now abandoned place. It's believed that Baron, owner of this house, used to live here with his wife, daughter, and other family members. Baron's wife died in this palace in very mysterious circumstances. It's also believed that his wife was unhappy with Baron due to his extramarital relationships. This made the daughter undergo severe pain and depression, and after a few months, she also passed away under mysterious circumstances. Baron died, and people aren't sure exactly how he died either. Due to the jinxed and haunted experiences the other relatives had long left the palace. This site has been very popular among ghost finders and Egyptian tantrics, but after the haunted experiences increased, the palace has been shut down for visitors, although one can roam around the exteriors of this place. This is among the spookiest haunted places in Egypt. Whenever 3 people die just unexpectedly like that with mysterious circumstances, there's always bound to be a legend around it. The fact that so many visitors and guards have seen evidence of potential poltergeists though, kinda really leads me to believe that something must be up with this place. Some of the stories are conflicting though about what ghostly apparitions are really out and about. Some accounts have talked about Baron himself walking around this place, whereas others have told tale of a mysterious ghost that isn't really connected to the family by blood. This ghost is thought to be of somebody who worked for Baron and was actually killed in this place. This ghost then came back to haunt the family, and it's what caused their unexpected deaths in the first place. It's really too bad that it has to be this way too, because the palace itself is beautiful on the outside, and I imagine that the inside is just as nice. Still not worth the risk of visiting though, considering its current ghostly inhabitant. Number 2 on this list is Cape Coast Castle. This castle is located in Ghana, and some horrible tragedies occurred here over the years. Originally, this castle was built so that people could trade gold and other valuable items. As time went on though, its purpose became far more evil. Slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade was truly a horrible time in human history, a time filled with so many injustices and atrocities. Basically, human beings were treated as animals and sold to the wealthy buyers in North America. The slaves that were sold would often come from these African countries like Ghana. Cape Coast Castle was used as a place to keep these people before the ship would come from North America to pick them up. It's said that the ship would come roughly once every 6 months, and conditions at this castle, they were horrible. They would take these people, separate the women from the men, and chain all of them up, leaving them in the dungeon. The only time the door would open up would be when the ships arrived to take them to North America, where their conditions would obviously not improve. During this time, many people passed away from the atrocious conditions that they were held in. Malnourishment and disease claimed the lives of so many people. Even death wouldn't cause the door to open though. Those who remained alive would have to sit in this room with the corpse of the person right next to them. It's no wonder that from all of this, people have talked about this place being haunted. The biggest sensation that everyone says is just a horrible sense of dread and fear. Granted, even if there isn't any ghostly presence here, I still think that I'd feel that. Just being around a place that's seen so much horror is bound to make somebody feel scared. And finally, number 1 on this list is Menengai Crater. This crater has a lot of ancient legends surrounding it and is located deep in Kenya. Eddie Mwanza writes, the extinct volcano offers striking views of Lake Nakuru and Lake Bogoria. Although the volcano is dormant, there are hot spots on the floor of the crater where steam jets sometimes fill it with vapor. However, its stunning beauty is matched by its dark and wild side that has locals convinced to be the work of evil spirits. People have lost their lives while others have disappeared, never to be seen from again, while others have strayed and lost direction in the cave, only for them to be found hours later unable to explain how they lost their way. This has earned the crater the name Kirma Kia Ngoma, which means the place of devils in Kikuyu. There are also mythical and unsupported claims of some people seeing the devil riding a motorcycle. There's also widespread allegation of a flying umbrella that normally appears whenever it rains. Historians say the place was a scene of violent battles between the Lakapia Messiah Messiah who did not recognize the authority of the Laban, the spiritual leader of the Messiah, against Ilpu Masih. In one battle, it's said that Likapea warriors were thrown into the caldera, with local folklore claiming that the spirits of the warriors haunt the place to date. So this place is obviously a freaking hazard, guys, with potential soldier ghosts chilling in its depths, and also many stories of people getting totally lost and never seen from again. It's no wonder locals are constantly worried about this crater. I was also looking at pictures of this place, and geographically it looks like a major hazard as well. It's out in the complete middle of nowhere and looks extremely hard to traverse. As cool as the scenery would be, going here just really isn't the best idea. Number 5 on this list is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Operating from 1864 to 1994, this asylum, like most of the entries on this list, has certainly been through the ringer. This place was meant to only house 250 people at its max, but on many occasions had over 2,400 people residing here. Everyone was crammed in like animals, and considering this building was never meant to see this many patients at once, the living conditions were pretty horrible. Whenever you cram that many people into a small space together, especially an asylum, some pretty nasty things will go down as well. Several murders have taken place here over the years, along with incidents of patients and workers taking their own life. The haunting of this location was pretty progressive and didn't come on all at once. Reports date back to the early 1900s and got increasingly more frequent as time went on. Eventually it became clear by the later 1900s that this was no longer a usable space and they needed to move on. This is why it shut down in 1994 and has no medical purpose at this point. In fact, now the only thing that it has is ghost tours. The owner of this place know the legends are far stretching with this asylum and intend to make a profit on it. The ghosts are decently friendly here, or at least for the most part aren't dangerous. However, there have been a few instances where individuals have been scared to a point of serious and significant trauma. If you do plan to go here, then make sure you have a thick skin and aren't frightened easily. Number 4 on this list is Haunted Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry is a small town in West Virginia that honestly looks like something out of a storybook. It's comprised of roughly 119th century restored buildings. As you can imagine, it's a very quiet town and there isn't too much of a big city vibe going on here at all. This place wasn't always quiet though. In the American Civil War, this town played a pivotal role and was fought over multiple times throughout the years. People believe that it was through the death during the Civil War that this place has developed an affinity to spirits. Deborah Block says, at the nearby True Treats historic candy store, chocolate and other candies are brightly lit on tables and in baskets. The cute and welcoming shop is popular with visitors, hardly seeming like a place where a ghost would want to hang out. But store manager Tara Dockman, known as the Ghost Lady, in town for her sensitivity to paranormal activity, says there are 2 ghosts who frequent the store, and she even knows one of them by name. The female has a white flowy gown and she goes to the top floor of the store where there are no customers, she explained. And Colby, a man, likes to show himself and usually shows a shoulder or a pants leg which you'll see walk across a room. They both like to throw candy around and slam doors on customers. Dockman said Colby is a troublemaker who may also push people. She assured me that she had spoken to him about not bothering me while I was in the shop and was hiding in a corner storage area. Tara isn't some nutbag who's the only one who sees ghosts here either. Tons of people in the town have had run-ins with them. In fact, the biggest attraction this town has to offer are the ghost tours that highlight how haunted this place truly is.
Coming in at number 2 we have Mount Ratanj. This is a mountain located in eastern Serbia between the towns of Boljevec and Soka Banja, and is one of the highest peaks in Serbia and is another huge phenomenon. Many stories have emerged from onlookers and tourists that go to Ratanj. Stories about unusual flying objects which circle around the peak, fiery spheres, aliens and voices in unknown languages have been some of many things people experience here. This mountain is also talked about by many due to its beauty, size and perfect geometrical shape resembling a pyramid. Ratanj actually has the same angle of inclination as the Pyramid of the Moon in Mexico, and same angles as the Pyramid of Cheops, and many believe that this is not coincidence. The mystery surrounding Ratanj is still the reason for many scientists' arguments. Some say the mountain is actually an ancient pyramid, a natural wonder, the work of a higher power of even aliens. Another local legend explains that the castle of a wizard was located on Ratanj Mountain, where he held his treasure, but the castle had eventually disappeared within the mountain, trapping the wealthy sorcerer inside with his treasures, making this a very popular location for treasure hunters in search for lost gold and gems. So many questions loom over Mount Ratanj and has created a whirlwind of theories and tourists to come and try and experience the many things rumored to happen here. Others come to Ratanj for the rare healing herbs that grow in the mountains, and it emits a type of energy which is beneficial to human health, but this is only a rumor. Everyone who has visited this mountain say they experience a mysterious energy. We may never know if this is positive or negative. And finally, in at number 1 we have Sava Savanovic's Mill. This is one of the most well-known places in Serbia for its ghost stories. This mill is located in the hill of the small village of Saroj in the west-central part of Serbia, 3 hours away from the town of Belgrade. The story is that Sava Savanic was a vampire and the first ever vampire that resided at this mill. According to one story, Sava was a wealthy cattle trader and he had fallen in love with a much younger girl who he had proposed to, but she had rejected him. Blinded by anger and jealousy, he decided to kill the girl. After the locals of Saroj found out, they beat Sava to death and buried him outside the local cemetery. But actually, Sava had risen and became a vampire and began drowning everyone who would come to grind grain in his mill. For years, the locals of Saroj lived in fear of the murderous vampire until they came together and stabbed him with a hawthorn skate, killing him forever. And legend says that a butterfly escaped from Sava's grave, which meant that Sava is still visiting the mill to this day. The citizens of the village tell many stories about the horror they have faced from this creature, and it's the most known horror story throughout all of Serbia. And in 1880, one of the most famous Serbian authors, Milovan Glisic, wrote the book 90 Years Later, rooting from the story of this famous vampire, and was in fact published 17 years before Bram Stoker's Dracula. And then in 1973, all of the stories of the vampire were turned into Serbia's first horror film, Butterfly. The old Sava mill was left abandoned for a long time until it was renovated by the local owner of the village cafeteria, and after all of these stories swirling, Sava has become a local legend, and tourists come from near and far to visit this mill. Many still believe that Sava to this day still haunts the mill, and it's considered one of the most haunted places in all of Serbia.
Number 5 on this list is the Hotel of Doom. Yep guys, there's literally a hotel in North Korea that's been nicknamed the Hotel of Doom. It sounds like something straight out of an Austin Powers movie, but I can promise you that Dr. Evil is not residing there. That's because the hotel itself, the largest building in all of North Korea, has never had a single guest in it ever. It's completely abandoned and never fulfilled its initial purpose of being the most prestigious hotel in North Korea. In fact, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, the 1,080-foot tall building is the tallest unoccupied building on the entire planet. 105 stories of just absolute nothingness. North Korea never finished the building because they just simply ran out of money. The whole country is estimated to have a gross domestic product of about $40 billion, and the building is estimated to take roughly $2 billion to finish. So, to finish this hotel, the country would need to allot 5% of all its money to get it done. Needless to say, it won't be happening anytime soon. Even though this Hotel of Doom isn't housing any human visitors, that doesn't mean that someone isn't putting it to good use though. Well, maybe someone is a poor choice of words. It might be better to say something. Since the exterior construction of it finished in 2008, there have been rumors circulating about some sort of creature living in this hotel. Not a physical being like a werewolf or a beast of some kind, but a shadow figure that floats throughout. A little bit like a Dementor from Harry Potter, but even less humanoid than those were. The sightings have been few and far between because no one ever goes into the hotel. It's only ever been spotted from the ground looking up. People reported a sense of uneasiness when walking past this building, but the building itself is also very intimidating. North Korea doesn't have many buildings of this stature, so this one definitely sticks out like a sore thumb. If a shadow creature has taken up residence here, then it's honestly done pretty well for itself. In fact, it may own one of the most expensive, albeit unfinished, properties in all of North Korea. Number 4 on this list is the prisons. And yes, you did hear that properly guys, prisons as in plural, not just one, but all of them. North Korea is very secretive about everything that goes on there, so making a list about this country is pretty tough. Because of that, it's hard to identify one specific prison that's haunted, but based on the stories of these places, I'd honestly assume that all of them are. The amount of death that happens at North Korean prisons is actually messed up. In fact, a judge who survived Auschwitz said that these prisons are just as bad. The first section on Wikipedia in regards to these prisons writes, North Korean prison camps have conditions that are unsanitary, life-threatening, and are comparable to historical concentration camps. A significant number of prisoners have died each year since they are subject to torture and inhumane treatment. Public and secret executions of prisoners, even children, especially in cases of attempted escape, are commonplace. The mortality rate is exceptionally high because many prisoners die of starvation, illness, work accidents, or torture. There have also been reports that even if your father committed a crime, for instance, well, you'll also go to jail for it. Innocent people are being sent into these places with no due process and dying in these horrible and harsh environments all the time. Just how some of those German camps are haunted by those who were taken far too soon, I have to imagine that the same thing's going on here. Now, we don't know for sure, and there aren't any specific stories that have come to the light, but that's mostly because North Korea keeps all their info airtight, and there have only been a few stories that have even come out about survivors of this place. I feel like it goes without saying, but obviously, this is a spot that you should just never go. Number 3 on this list is Kim Jong-il's tomb. Kim Jong-il was the leader of North Korea for almost 20 years before passing in 2011. The Kumsusan Memorial Palace is a massive palace that used to house the initial ruler of North Korea, Kim Jong-il's father, Kim Il-sung. Once he died though, this massive place was converted into a mausoleum to respect the great leader and then later his son as well. This place is creepy as all holy hell though, and is definitely haunted by these old leaders. Let's just take a quick look at what they currently have Kim Jong-il chilling in. It's this massive all glass container that he's been mummified in. His embalmed body just lies there all the time, and it's actually a tourist attraction now. North Korea has opened this up to the public if you want to go and pay your respects to their great leader. If you do go, which I don't recommend doing because it's super creepy and kind of weird, but if you do, then ABC News writes, all visitors are required to pass through jets of air to cleanse them of dust. Tourists are required to bow at the feet and arms of the dead father and son. However, they are not permitted to bow at the head as it's considered disrespectful. Cameras and phones are not allowed. Apparently, the ghosts of these two former North Korean leaders haunt this place, and people have seen their spirits wandering around the building. Kim Jong-il and his dad weren't the greatest of guys when they were alive, so I can only imagine that going to visit them in spirit form probably isn't going to be too much better. Number 5 on this list is Larnach Castle. New Zealand isn't like a lot of European countries with tons of castles. In fact, as far as castles go, they hardly have that many at all. That's why it kinda sucks that one of their only ones and one of the most beautiful just has to be haunted. Travel Triangle writes, one of the spookiest places in New Zealand, the Larnach Castle, is famous for being one of the few castles in the country. The story goes as follows. The castle's ballroom was gifted by Larnach to his daughter Katie on her 21st birthday. Unfortunately, she died young due to typhoid cancer. His first 2 wives also died while in this castle, and he himself took his own life after learning of his son's and his 3rd wife's affair. Later, the castle was also a mental hospital during the World Wars. While Katie is seen swirling in the ballroom, he too has been spotted roaming around the corridors. Instances of people being pushed, touched on the back, and others have all been reported. Well, that is just all kinds of messed up, guys. Why couldn't this have been the last season of Game of Thrones instead of what we did get? We got disease, affairs, multiple wives, people taking their own life, and then on top of all of that, this castle was literally used as a mental hospital during the World Wars. I truly cannot think of a history that would have made a place more haunted than that. Apparently, the ghost of the father who killed himself is often spotted at this location. He'll appear to visitors and will moan and cry to them, seemingly regretting his decision. Some people have also spotted a ghoul-like creature that looks a little bit like the Joker. It's in a straitjacket and has this menacing smile that looks sinister but also gives you the feeling that this creature isn't in control of its actions. It's really too bad that this is the reality of Larnach Castle, because I looked at some photos and from the outside, it's pretty cool. Even though it looks really nice, I can't in good conscience recommend that you go here though. Number 4 on this list is the Puhini Homestead. This homestead is located in the Hoher historical village, which was built in 1861, but then moved to where it sits now in 1982. NewsHub writes, over the years there have been sightings of a woman in white ascending the stairs. Footsteps have been heard from the halls with no one around to make them, and the sound of objects being dragged across the floor has reportedly echoed through the empty walls. Wallbank stayed overnight in the homestead to try and see whatever was going on in the night for himself. He says there was a feeling of being watched, but it didn't make him feel afraid. As the night alone in the old building progressed, there were sounds he couldn't explain. Scuffing sounds and swishes. It's like there's something just around that corner, he wrote in a journal at the time. Hiding or doing something. I'm thinking of a rat, but I can't see one. At around 3 a.m., Walbank heard a bang as though something had fallen over. Turns out the torch he had set up on a chair upstairs had fallen or been knocked over. Footage shows the torch flying down the stairs as though it had been thrown. But there's no camera on the torch itself, so just how it moved like that is still a mystery. Video footage of the stairs doesn't show much, just a slight shadow maybe. But it's the audio that's odd. Loud noises that sound like a cabinet being dragged across the floor. A series of footsteps and several loud clanking noises similar to that made by a metal bucket. Whenever ghosts or paranormal beings have the ability to move physical objects, the stakes, they get raised a lot. Think about it, if that torch just so happened to land on something flammable and Walbank wasn't there to hear it right away, then that entire house could have gone up with him in it. Ghosts like this are dangerous and have no care for human life. Why this ghost is here or why they're pissed off at humans is a mystery as well. Maybe if we knew that, then we could at least do something to appease it, but we can't. Once again, this is the case of a spot in New Zealand that, for whatever reason, is just deeply haunted. Number 3 on this list is the Napier Prison. Napier Prison is the oldest jail in the country, dating all the way back to 1862. The prison shut down its activities in 1993, but that was after 130 years of reluctant guests staying here and doing enough damage to cause it to become seriously haunted. Like most jails back then, there were some serious injustices that took place here. The prisoners were treated brutally. They could be tortured, beaten, or in some cases even killed. There's an area of the prison called the Hanging Yard, and I think you can probably imagine what happened there based on the name. This prison also housed some of the hardest criminals in New Zealand. Granted, it also housed some people who did some petty crimes too, and some who were even just generally innocent. The dark history and the numerous human rights violations that went down here have left their mark for sure. The first thing that goes is technology. Those who go here say that cell phones stop working, cameras have a hard time capturing images, and if they brought a computer, then that's as good as useless. Then you get hit with the shadows. What is a brightly lit room all of a sudden just gets filled with darkness from literally nowhere. How it got there is anyone's guess. And last is the faces. Disembodied faces show up in this dark haze and either speak to visitors or attack them. Sometimes they'll come straight out of the walls, and sometimes they'll just appear in front of you. As cool as it would be to talk to a floating head, I don't think I want to risk the mental trauma that I'd have after seeing that, so I recommend avoiding this jail altogether. Number 2 on this list is Poenari Fortress. This fortress has been riddled with death and destruction ever since it was first built. Even though in the first part of this series we talked about Dracula's castle, this is the castle where Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Dracula's character, spent a large part of his time. It's said that he saw the ruins of a fortress here at the beginning of his rule and thought that it would be a great place for a stronghold. He enslaved his enemies and worked them around the clock to revive the fortress to its former glory. Many of them died due to the extensive labor and fatigue, and those who didn't were killed by being impaled. Now, it's said that some of their spirits haunt this place, but they aren't the only ghost that still lingers here. The most notable haunting of this place is actually done by Vlad the Impaler's wife. During Vlad's reign, this fortress fell under siege by his enemies. Vlad was able to escape the castle, but his wife wasn't so lucky. The castle was falling, and rather than get captured by the oncoming army, she decided to fling herself off of the castle walls over top of a cliff. Her body fell far and dropped into a river many hundreds of feet below. It's said that the river ran red with blood, and it was nicknamed the Ladies' River following this. Her ghost now forever wanders around this castle, restless. Some say that her soul can never find peace because she can never forgive her husband for abandoning her all those years ago. This is why locals say that she has it out for any married men that visit the castle. Although visiting this castle would definitely make for a fun day trip, it might just not be worth it. Number 1 on this list is Hoher Forest. Often referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, this forest is on pretty much everyone's list when it comes to the most haunted forests in the world. It all started when in 1968 a military technician took a photo of the area and captured what looked to be a UFO hovering over top of the woods. An article from My Best Place writes, After this incident, other inexplicable events soon followed, including the disappearance of a shepherd and his 200 sheep which were never found again, and the disappearance of a 5-year-old girl who later reappeared 5 years later wearing the same clothes and without having aged even one day. There have also been many first-hand reports from people who have entered the forest only to come out with burns, severe rashes, headaches, and a high fever which they didn't have before. Some studies have revealed higher than usual radioactivity produced by natural uranium present in the subsoil. The part in that article about burns and rashes and other things is one of the most common reports described by the people who go here. It seems that everyone who enters into these woods leaves with some sort of trauma. Most of that trauma is mental though. Feelings of despair and depression are widely documented from pretty much everyone who steps foot into this forest. All of the numerous reports, the photographs, and the general lore around this place has to make it the most haunted spot in all of Romania. Definitely not a forest that I recommend going to if you're looking to get outdoors. Number 5 on this list is the Plaza Theater Performing Arts Center. Built in 1930, this beautiful theater has had many shows and screenings here over the years. For 55 years, it was in operation as one of the premier spots to have your movie shown, but in 1985, the theater shut down. It remained as such for about 20 years when in 2006, it began to get renovated. Now it's mainly just for live theater and other performance art in the city of El Paso. Like a lot of beautiful old theaters though, as time passes, legends emerge, and this one in particular certainly has its fair share. The Plaza Theater for Performance Arts Center has 3 primary ghostly apparitions it houses. The first is our very standard and very classic drifting woman in white. Looking sad and down on her luck, the spirit of this woman will often drift around through the rafters and has been seen by many workers throughout the years. The second is a man in all black who materializes in front of people. He's described a bit like a shadow creature, but slightly less menacing. I suppose if we have our woman in white, it's only fitting that we have a man in black to get a little bit of variety going. The third ghost sticks with the theme of spicing things up and is actually a little boy with a bouncing ball. It's not a basketball, but a small bouncy ball that the child seemingly plays with as he haunts the theater. Nobody knows the origin of these ghosts or how they got here at all. Are they connected? Maybe once a family unit who died here together, or are they all separate and have each suffered strange tragedies at this location over the century? El Paso, I'm sure, has some other theaters, and I'd stick to those ones if you're looking to watch some live shows if you're there. Number 4 on this list is Hendley Row. Located on the Texan island of Galveston on the Gulf Coast, this is the most famous haunted spot for locals in the region. Texas Highways writes, "It's not surprising that Hendley Row is a hotspot for supernatural activity. Completed between 1855 and 1858 for shippers and cotton brokers, it was the town's tallest structure during the Civil War. The roof doubled as a Confederate lookout for Union ships. Galveston and nearby barrier islands, history had been laced with tragedy. It was the site of a bloody Civil War fight, and serial epidemics of yellow fever decimated the populace. Hurricanes blast through regularly. The 1990 storm left up to 12,000 casualties in the worst natural disaster in US history. No wonder Texas writer Brian Woolley called Galveston an old cemetery with a beach attached. The resident ghosts of Hendley Row represent aspects of Galveston history. There's the Confederate soldier seen on the roof and around the building. The bloodied teenage factory worker is a vestige of the building's cotton grading days. The lady in white and the running and playing little boy and little girl are thought to be 1900 storm victims. The upper floors house apartments and offices now, but Henley Market's glass ceiling reveals views of stairs and landings. During renovations, workers reported tools mysteriously moving around. Staff recall other spooky experiences as well. Some years ago, a friend gave her old photo of Dr. Wilbur from a house on Church Street that's always displayed in the shop. When Hurricane Ike inundated the building with 10 feet of water in 2008, the photo went undamaged while many other things were destroyed. Every year on November 1st, employees construct an elaborate Day of the Dead altar that includes the photo and lighted candles. Before closing, the staff follows a 3-person backup routine to ensure the candles are completely extinguished, even dousing them with water. Yet almost every single year, 1 or more candles are burning the next morning. I can't imagine working at a place where we had to light candles for our ghost altar. Like, that action alone would make me want to quit immediately. I suppose the one good thing is that the ghosts here don't appear to be particularly evil or wanting to inflict harm. Still though, waking up and heading to work is already a tall task as it is, but knowing that there's a dead little boy and girl waiting there, yeah, that's a solid no-go for me. Number 3 on this list is the USS Lexington. The ship has its own museum dedicated to it now, and it is 100% haunted. The decommissioned World War II aircraft carrier is riddled with different phantoms. This museum is literally said to receive, on average, hundreds of reports of ghostly apparitions in 1 year. That is so much supernatural energy that is just congregated here. Now, World War II was obviously an awful time, and if this boat played a major role in the Battle of the Atlantic, which I imagine it did, then it assuredly saw its fair share of tragedies. The ghosts are not quiet about their presence, they make themselves very known. One of the most famous ones resides in the engine room. Apparently, visitors will go there and a spirit will form explaining the engines and how they work. Then, when his lecture is over, poof, he will be gone in a puff of smoke. There's also a general sailor that walks around the ship and is actually said to be rather helpful. However, with these tame ghosts, there are some troublemakers as well. Small items that you may have on your person, a wallet, a watch, a phone, a keychain, anything like that are often reported missing after people get on the ship. If you do intend to go here, then hold on to your valuables very closely and get ready for a long lecture on engines. Number 3 on this list is Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. The park is no longer functional, and based on all of the incidents that went down here, that's probably a good thing. It all started in the 1700s when a settler, Mitchell Clay, and the local Shawnee Native Americans fought and ended with 3 of Clay's children dying and lots of Shawnee warriors passing away as well. This was the inciting incident of the tragic movie that is Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Also, 200 years later, in the 1920s, this land was bought and turned into an amusement park. The buyer wasn't aware of this history though, and didn't realize the dark mark that had been left here by that battle so many years ago. There were a decent amount of tragic incidents that went down here while the amusement park was operational, but there are 2 that stand out as being the most stunning. The first one involved a young girl on the swings. While she was on the swings, a delivery truck, without seeing her, backed straight into her and she passed away. The second one involved someone who drowned in the swimming pool because their arm got stuck in the drain. The amusement park had seen enough and shut down in 1966. It was roughly 20 years later that they discovered the history of this place and pieced it all together, assuming that a curse must have been responsible. Locals don't dare go to this place anymore for fear of this curse. It should also be noted that the few who have stepped foot on this place again have reported run-ins with that young girl who died so many years ago. It seems that this curse won't allow her spirit to pass on, and now she wanders the area. I'm sure that there are a bunch of other amusement parks in West Virginia that are a lot more fitting and functional than this one. Highly recommend avoiding Lake Shawnee altogether. Number 2 on this list is West Virginia Penitentiary. Would this really be a most haunted place list if we didn't throw a prison on here? Paranormal activity usually favors places that have seen a lot of tragedies and sadness, and this penitentiary has definitely had its fair share. This prison opened up in the 1860s and was active for 119 years before finally being shut down. In that time, it saw over 100 executions, countless riots where people were either severely injured or died, fires, and an insane amount of human rights violations. All of this has led to what we have now, which is just a really haunted prison. Though the prisoners are gone, they're not forgotten, and by many accounts, the ghosts of some of the 998 men who died here still roam free. There's a shadow man that has been seen and even photographed. Staff of the prison have been accosted by unseen forces. Strange noises still echo throughout the cell blocks, and something dark lurks in the bowels of the building. That was a small passage from Moundsville Haunted History, who are familiar with the prison. 998 men though. That's how many different individuals are thought to potentially haunt this place. That's literally a full-on ghost army right there, guys. This place must have been horrible if that many people's souls are left wandering around this space. If I was the owner of this spot, I'd do those 998 people a favor and just knock this place to the ground. Maybe then these ghosts can finally rest. And finally, number 1 on this list is Point Pleasant. This has got to be the top spot on our list just considering the amount of lore surrounding the creature here. The Mothman. If you're watching videos on this channel, then I imagine you're already probably familiar with what this creature is, but for those who aren't, the Mothman is a humanoid creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area from November 15th, 1966 to December 15th, 1967. Shayla Klein says, according to legend, Mothman is a black 10-foot creature with wings and red eyes. Articles and newspapers at the time were reporting that the monster was also commonly seen in the TNT area near town, with some locals speculating that perhaps people were really seeing cranes or owls, and others wondering if the creature was created in some sort of mutation accident involving the chemicals associated with storing TNT. Regardless, legend has it that mysterious men in black suits began visiting the town shortly after the sighting reports. The most infamous sighting of Mothman was on December 15th, 1967. Locals said that they saw Mothman on top of or flying over the Silver Bridge, which was a suspension bridge over the Ohio River that connected Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio. According to Mothman lore, shortly after the creature was spotted on the bridge collapsed, resulting in the deaths of 46 people. An investigation into the disaster found that a fracture in a suspension chain was the cause. This is one of the most famous American urban legends ever. The amount of people who saw this creature during this period of time and the fact that high-ranking secret officials started to investigate it all point to its legitimacy. It was active for about a year and then just totally disappeared though, and nobody knows what happened to it. The leading theory is that the government was able to capture whatever it was and probably took it to a secret base to study it. If that's the case, then Point Pleasant is most likely safe now, but be wary of what's flying over top of you if you do decide to go here. Number 2 on this list is the 38th parallel. The 38th parallel, according to Google, is a circle of latitude that is 38 degrees north of Earth's equatorial plane. It crosses Europe, the Mediterranean Sea, Asia, the Pacific Ocean, North America, and the Atlantic Ocean. The 38th parallel north formed the border between North and South Korea prior to the Korean War. This 38th parallel is actually a demilitarized zone between North and South Korea now. This area is really difficult to get across though for your average Joe. It's riddled with landmines, and on either side of the borders there's a sizable military presence just waiting to strike if you do attempt to do anything. Regardless of how dangerous it is to cross though, many North Koreans have attempted to get through this zone and into South Korea to try and escape their current life that they have in their own country. Over the years since this zone has been there, many North Korean citizens have risked their lives trying to get across this place. There have even been stories of people getting in vehicles and just gunning it as fast as they can, hoping to get to the other side. If they do manage to make it the whole way, then South Korea is typically sympathetic to their cause and will invite them into their own country as a Korean citizen. Many of them don't make it though. They're usually gunned down and stopped before they can make it far at all from their own country. Because of this, it's believed this area is haunted by the ghosts of those who tried to make it across and couldn't. These people were so close to salvation but just couldn't quite make it the last little bit, and now their souls forever remain here wishing they could have just pushed a little bit further. Not many people have seen them because this is a super hard area of the world to get to, but those who have said that they look to be in sheer agony, that they cry out and reach for those that they see in an attempt to get these people to save them. For more reason than one, I don't recommend going to the 38th parallel. Number 1 on this list is Sinchon. The North Korean town of Sinchon is located in the South Hwanghae province of North Korea. This town was apparently the site of what is referred to as the Sinchon massacre. Now the reason that I use the word apparently there is because this massacre is kind of all up in the air. The North Korean government claims that from the 17th of October to the 7th of December, the United States military killed just over 30,000 North Korean citizens. This next part was actually released by the North Korean Central News Agency in 1998, and fair warning, it's pretty graphic in its detail. They say the American soldiers drowned over 2,000 innocent people by dropping them from Soktan Bridge. They also drowned more than 1,000 women in So Siloam Reservoir. Upwards of 1,200 patriotic-minded people detained in an ice warehouse were bitten to death by military dogs. The headmaster of Younghae-1 of Junction Primary School was sawed up alive. They even talk about how the American soldiers performed horrible atrocities on children, but I actually can't even say how they described it on YouTube, or else this video would definitely get taken down. Now, even though this is what the North Koreans have come out and said, the South Koreans heavily dispute this. They say that it was the Korean right-wing extremists and communists who performed these killings. Regardless of who was actually responsible though, or the true death toll figures, something horrible did take place in this town. The atrocity here left its mark, and it's believed that those who were killed haunt this place to this day. The innocent souls still wander around this town and can't find peace. Glowing orbs and ghostly apparitions are regularly spotted here. It isn't just one ghost or one type of ghost either, but a horrifying variety. Men, women, children, ghost-like figures have been spotted of all of them before. Definitely not a cute and quaint town that you would want to visit if you ever did find yourself here. Number 5 on this list is Cismigiu Hotel. Located in Bucharest, this hotel was initially built over 100 years ago in 1912 and was first called the Palace Hotel. It was called this because it truly was a marvel back then and was one of the most beautiful spots in the country. The architect who built it owned the property until 1948 when it was ultimately taken by the state. This is where it was given the name that it has today. For the next 20 years or so, the hotel thrived and wasn't only just a spot for the super wealthy to vacation, but was also a spot of parliamentary meetings and other things of great importance. In 1970 though, this hotel shut down. It was simply a side effect of the communist wave that was sweeping through this part of the world, and therefore the hotel was neglected for 20 years until finally it reopened in 1990. It wasn't used as a hotel anymore though, but rather as student housing for the students enrolled in the Academy of Film and Theatre. It was during this phase when Cismigiu Hotel saw the tragedy that haunts it to this day. Nelly Bajan was a young student who was staying here during her time in school. The semester had come to an end though, and it was Christmas time when the incident happened. She was one of the only students who didn't go home for Christmas and instead decided to stay in her dorm. One evening she was walking down the hall, and due to some of the lights being out, she stepped into the elevator shaft where there was no elevator waiting for her. She fell down several stories and landed at the bottom of the shaft, writhing in agony. She didn't die immediately though. In fact, it took her over 3 hours to finally die from her wounds. 3 hours where she was screaming and yelling for help, but nobody could hear her because they were all home for Christmas. Now her spirit haunts this place, and many students have reported hearing cries for help coming from nowhere. Some have seen her ghost standing at the end of the hallway, looking as if she's desperate for someone's attention. The sad thing about this is that if it would have happened at any other time when students were in the building, she likely would have been saved and never would have died at all. Just a horrible tragedy that's left its mark on this hotel for good. Number 4 on this list is the Witch's Pond. So this is a bit of a weird one. The Witch's Pond is a very small collection of water in the Bánffy Forest that's said to be haunted. A few legends have come from this place. The first one, which I don't actually think is true, but I'm gonna tell you guys anyways, is that Vlad the Impaler was decapitated here. Now it could be possible that this did happen. The truth behind Vlad's death has been debated for centuries, but I find it unlikely that the killers would take him out to this pond in this forest and do it out here. The second legend, which I think is far more likely and probably did actually happen, is that a witch was killed here. An article on the subject writes, as the legend goes, 18th century villagers put a witch to death in the woods near a swampy pond in colonial-era cemetery of Aquia Creek. Her name, it said, was Edith, and her body was tossed into the water. This killing is how the pond got its name, the Witch's Pond. After she was killed, strange occurrences started happening here that couldn't be explained. It said that the water turns blood red in the springtime, and sometimes people see a witch-like figure hovering over this bloody liquid. In other reports, there's a sacrificial altar that's spawned here, and she's standing by it waiting to sacrifice someone. The sound of bodies being thrown into the pond along with a witch's cackle can be heard ringing throughout the forest. Locals avoid this pond, and you should too. Also, if you think about it, it's just a small pond, so I don't really know why you'd be going there anyways. Number 3 on this list is Iulia Hăzdu Castle. Bogdan Hăzdu was a Romanian intellectual who was very wealthy at the end of the 18th century. Bogdan, even though he put lots of effort into his work and business, put the most of his time into his daughter. Iulia Hăzdu was his daughter, and in Bogdan's eyes could do no wrong. That's why when she passed very unexpectedly at the age of 19, Bogdan fell into a deep depression. While she was alive, she was rather remarkable. In her early teens, she knew 7 languages and had already graduated several prestigious schools for piano and vocals. She apparently excelled at her schooling as well and was set to have a very fruitful life if she hadn't been taken too early due to tuberculosis. Bogdan, as I mentioned, didn't respond super well to this and reacted by building the Julia Hasdu Castle. Little did he know that it was going to be haunted. Apparently he partook in spiritism sessions with people who were trained in reaching out to the dead. In these sessions he would communicate with his daughter's ghost and she would tell him how she wanted her castle to be constructed. This is how it was built, and everything that he decided to do and tell the architect apparently came directly from the ghost of his daughter. Her ghost didn't just leave things be when this castle was finished though. In fact, she fully took up residence here. It's said that the ghost of this girl can be spotted walking throughout the halls of this castle very often. Many people report hearing the sound of a piano playing, assumingly at the hands of this ghost. What's even creepier though is that this piano playing will instantly be followed by the applause of her dead father. Also, this castle has several rooms specifically made for spiritual rituals and also an area to worship Satan. From what I've heard, the ghost here isn't particularly dangerous in nature, but it still sounds like one of the creepier spots in the whole country. Number 2 on this list is Bragg Road. For over 100 years now, this road has been haunted by a very strange and ghostly light. It's been seen by hundreds of people during that time and nobody can explain it. Texas Highways says, in the heart of the big thicket is Hardin County, and in the heart of Hardin County is the infamous Bragg Road, home to countless sightings of the ghost road light that appears to nighttime travelers on the road between Saratoga and the defunct village of Bragg Station. Before the current road was built, the Arrow Strait clearing served as Santa Fe Railroad's branch line built in 1903. From its inception, locals considered the line haunted by Mexican laborers murdered by a thieving foreman, a deserter shot by Confederate soldiers, a hunter lost forever in the woods, and a decapitated railroad brakeman searching for his head. But all the stories share a common theme: a floating orb of light. The road replaced the railroad tracks in 1934, but the light remained, seen by hundreds of people over the decades. In the 1960s, Archer Fullingham, editor of the County News, spread its notoriety in articles. National Geographic published a clear photo of the light in a 1974 feature about the Big Thicket. Texas folklorist Francis Albernithi documented sighting stories from the old-timers and young folks alike. In 1997, Hardin County designated Bragg Road as Ghost Road Scenic Drive Park. A pretty road through the woods in the daytime turns into a spooky spot for supernatural sightings by night. Word is the most auspicious times to see the light are on moonless autumn nights. What the heck is this light that has been haunting this place for all these years? Even National Geographic, a very highly reputable column, has posted stories on it with actual photos including it. If it's a manifestation of some of these ghosts, then which ghost is causing it, and maybe more importantly, is it dangerous? If you want to find out, then you need to head to Bragg Road and look for yourself, but I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. This hospital is definitely up there as one of the most haunted spots in Texas, and could even make a play for the most haunted spots in America. It was built in the 1950s and managed by the Roman Catholic Church for a few decades before eventually closing down in 1986. Then for 8 more years until 1992, it was a drug rehab facility, but finally in 1992 it closed for good. Since then it's been abandoned and gained some very serious ghostly legends by the locals. One of the most famous demonic creatures that resides here is this black specter with bright glowing red eyes. It's not shy either and will attack you if you're here alone or in a vulnerable state. This is the most famous of the presences here, but it isn't alone. The ghost of a man who appears to have a bullet wound directly in his forehead is also said to live here. His ghost is a lot less forceful than the dark demon though, and is said to just show himself to visitors rather than attack them. The spirits of nuns are said to be on the 2nd floor though as well. These spirits are similar to our demon creature and will claw and scratch at people who decide to come here. Along with all of this, we also get our classic indicators of a haunted location, such as feelings of despair as you walk through, temperature changes, and moans echoing throughout the building. Avoid this place at all costs if you want to keep a tight grip of your sanity.